If you've come to the last stage of an interview, there's only one thing left to do: the take-home assignment. Hi friends, and welcome to this channel. Today I'm gonna show you how I approach my product design take-home assignment so that hopefully you can learn from my experience. Ultimately, I will share with you some tips on things you should and should not do when presenting your work. If you're new here, my name is Sara and I'm a product designer from Italy working at a tech company called Crunch in Brighton, UK. In my previous video, we look at how I got my first job as a product designer, and today I want to talk about this painful but necessary step. As you watch this video, do let me know in the comments if there are things I haven't covered that you would like to know, and I'll make sure to get back to you. By the way, if you like this video and would like to see more from me, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button to get notified whenever I publish new ones. Now, let's talk about the good, the bad and the ugly of take-home assignments. Let's start with the bad ones. Assignments are often time-consuming, especially when you are competing against many other candidates, and the chances that they're gonna choose you are very low. Plus, candidates are selling their ideas and talent for free without knowing what the companies are gonna do with them. It's actually not fair to use candidates' ideas to solve problems that are directly relevant to the company, especially because we don't have a big picture or enough information about the design challenge we're solving. But that's one positive thing. The good thing is that if you don't have a rich variety of projects in your portfolio, you can still prove your worth and showcase your skills. I think that assignments are best suited for junior candidates, but if you're a senior designer with 5+ year experience, this step hopefully might not be required. In my previous video, I took you through my whole hiring process, but today I want to show you how I tackled my home assignment to give you a better idea of what you could expect during the hiring process. The brief was very simple: redesign the chat feature of the Crunch website. What wasn't simple was that they didn't give me enough constraints, and at the beginning I was kind of panicking, but eventually I started to think about what I would have done if it was one of my freelance projects, and it became easier. Now let's have a look together. Before we start, quick tip. I decided to use Keynote because I wanted to put something together as quickly as possible, but if I was using a tool such as Figma, Adobe XD or InDesign, I would have spent too much time making sure that everything was pixel perfect, which wasn't the purpose of the presentation. That's why I decided to use Keynote. To begin with, I decided to try out the chat feature and speak with an advisor. Then I started to brainstorm ideas on sticky notes. My ideas included making the chat usable on mobile, being able to send screenshots, keeping track of all the conversations and sending automatic replies. I wrote down all the ideas I could think of, and then I narrowed it down to just a few that I thought would be the most important. Next, I placed my sticky notes on the wall as a column, and on the same line I started to turn my ideas into UI elements and visual representations. Then I took some photos and moved on to Keynote. On the next page, I defined positive points and limitations of the chat. While the previous step was more focused on generating ideas, in the second part I defined what I liked about the product and what I wanted to improve. For example, I wanted to be able to attach screenshots, save conversations and find answers myself while the advisor was offline. This exercise helped me identify opportunities to improve the product as well as preparing myself for the next step. While the first part was focused around the product, in the second part I started to empathize with the user, defining their goals and pain points. The hiring manager is not expecting you to interview many people. You can do it by yourself or involve a friend, your partner. It's totally fine. Remember that this is not a real project and you don't have enough information about the company or their users, so it's okay to use your imagination. For the next step, I decided to create a storyboard about an imaginary character called Dylan, whose goal was to become a freelance developer. I thought it was a good idea to visually represent these bullet points, plus I love drawing comic strips. Alright, in the first frame, Dylan is using the chat as a quick way to get answers about Crunch when some funny events start happening. He actually forgets his lunch in the oven, and when he gets back from the kitchen, the advisor has transferred the call to her colleague. The new advisor knows Dylan's situation, which saves him the frustration of explaining it again. I also wanted to show that the advisors can distinguish logged-in clients from potential customers so that they can better assist them. Eventually, he became a client and grew his business over time with the help of Crunch. My hiring manager said that they really liked this part, not only because it was kind of funny, like a comic strip, but also because it made it easier to see how the final product would work even before seeing my design solution. If I was doing this again, I would probably choose to use a digital tool like Procreate so that I can make changes without starting over. This is actually the fifth of a series of failed comic strips. Well done, Sarah! Well done! And after that, I created 3 user stories in Figma. In the first one, users can find answers themselves using a dynamic drop-down menu that contains articles and PDF guides to read and download. In the second story, the user saves the conversation by clicking on the icon on the top left. And in the third story, it's given the option to talk to a new advisor after the time runs out. And in the last board, I've attached a link to the Figma file because, I was proud of this project and I wanted to show them how I organized my boards. Alright, I hope this was helpful, and now, as promised, here are 3 tips on things you should and should not do while presenting your assignment. Tip number 1 is to keep an eye on the clock. If you spend too much time on the first part of the presentation, you might end up rushing and missing the most important parts, or even worse, the interviewer might get bored and stop paying attention. On the other hand, you don't want to rush the presentation because it will make it look like you are undervaluing your work or you're too scared. Tip number 2 is to be honest when answering questions. What you don't want to do is to pretend that you know the answer when it's clear that you don't know it. Instead, say something like, I cannot think of any good answer off top of my head, but with a bit more time, I'm sure I could come up with something. And the last and most absolute important thing to remember is to show enthusiasm and confidence. If you're confident in your work, your interviewer will be too. And that's all from me. I really hope this video was helpful. If you have any more questions about this topic, leave them in the comments and I'll make sure to get back to you. If you like this video and would like to see more from me, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button to get notified whenever I publish new ones. Alright, good luck with your interview. I really hope this was helpful and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!